Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This is Thursday, February 6th, 2025, and we need to talk about what could be a significant winter storm bearing down on eastern Canada for this upcoming weekend. Environment Canada has been monitoring a developing low-pressure system that has the potential to bring heavy snowfall, strong winds, and dangerous travel conditions to a wide swath of territory from southern Ontario through Quebec and into the Atlantic provinces. And folks, the timing of this system, arriving Friday night into Saturday, means we're looking at peak impact during what would normally be one of the busiest travel periods of the week. Now, I want to be clear right from the start here. Forecast confidence is still evolving as we're about 48 hours out from initial impacts, but the ingredients are coming together in a way that meteorologists are taking very seriously. And Environment Canada has already begun issuing special weather statements for multiple regions across eastern Canada, which is always the first step in their alert protocol when conditions warrant heightened awareness. Let's break down what we know right now based on the latest data from Environment Canada, the Canadian Meteorological Centre, and supporting models including the American GFS and European ECMWF systems. The storm system we're tracking is currently positioned over the central United States, where it's already producing significant winter weather across portions of the Midwest. We're seeing snow reports coming in from places like Minnesota and Wisconsin, where accumulations are already approaching 15 to 20 centimetres in some locations. This system is expected to intensify as it tracks northeastward, drawing in moisture from the Atlantic Ocean, while tapping into a very cold Arctic air mass that's been entrenched across eastern Canada for the past week. That collision of moisture and cold air is the classic recipe for significant snowfall. And the track of this low-pressure system, which models are consistently showing moving through southern Ontario and into southern Quebec, puts some of Canada's most densely populated regions directly in the crosshairs. Starting with southern Ontario, including the Greater Toronto Area, Hamilton, Niagara region, and extending through the Golden Horseshoe, Environment Canada's current thinking has snowfall beginning Friday evening, likely after the evening commute, but before midnight for most areas. The snow is expected to intensify overnight Friday into early Saturday morning, with the heaviest rates occurring Saturday morning through early afternoon. Current snowfall projections for this region are ranging from 15 to 25 centimetres, with the higher amounts most likely across areas from roughly Burlington through Toronto and eastward toward Oshawa and Peterborough. Now those are significant totals, folks. We're talking about nearly a foot of snow in some locations. But what makes this particularly concerning is the wind component. As this low-pressure system intensifies, we're expecting northeast winds to pick up considerably, with sustained speeds of 40 to 60 kilometres per hour, and gusts that could reach 70 to 80 kilometres per hour, especially near the Lake Ontario shoreline. When you combine that kind of wind with falling and accumulating snow, you're creating blowing snow conditions that will significantly reduce visibility, potentially down to near zero at times, and that makes travel not just difficult, but genuinely dangerous. Moving eastward into eastern Ontario and the Ottawa Valley, this region is also under the gun for significant impacts starting Friday night. The nation's capital could see snow beginning around 10 p.m. to midnight Friday, with accumulations building through Saturday. Ottawa and surrounding communities, including Gatineau, just across the river in Quebec, are looking at potential totals in the 20 to 30 centimetre range based on current modelling, with the higher end amounts more likely if the storm track shifts slightly farther north than currently projected. The Ottawa International Airport has already begun coordinating with airlines about potential disruptions to Saturday flight schedules, and Via Rail has indicated they're monitoring the situation closely for potential impacts to their Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal corridor services. Wind will be a major factor here as well, with northeast to east winds gusting to 70 kilometres per hour possible Saturday, creating those same blowing snow conditions that will make travel treacherous. Quebec is positioned to take a substantial hit from this system, particularly the heavily populated regions along the St. Lawrence River Valley. Montreal and Laval are currently in the bullseye for significant snowfall, with Environment Canada's preliminary estimates suggesting 25 to 35 centimetres of accumulation from Friday night through Saturday evening. That's a serious snowfall event by any measure, folks. And Montreal has already activated its snow removal operations planning protocols, preparing for what could be one of the most significant single-event snowfalls of this winter season so far. Quebec City and the surrounding Capitale Nationale region could see similar or potentially even higher amounts, with some models suggesting totals approaching 40 centimetres in the highest terrain north of the city. The timing in Quebec looks like snow beginning late Friday evening, intensifying after midnight and continuing heavy through most of Saturday before tapering off Saturday evening. Société de Transport de Montréal, the city's public transit authority, has indicated they'll be running enhanced service schedules if needed, but they're also warning riders that delays should be expected throughout the day Saturday as conditions deteriorate. The storm doesn't stop at Quebec. The Atlantic provinces are also going to feel significant effects, though the timeline extends a bit later into the weekend. New Brunswick, particularly the northern portions of the province, including the Acadian Peninsula and the Restigouche region, could see this system arrive Saturday morning, with snow continuing through Sunday morning. Accumulations here are a bit more uncertain because we're dealing with the storm's progression and potential for it to track into the Gulf of St. Lawrence, where ocean temperatures could introduce mixing concerns. We might see some snow transition to ice pellets or even freezing rain in coastal areas, which would be a whole different set of problems. Current thinking has northern New Brunswick looking at 15 to 25 centimetres of snow. But again, that could change depending on exact storm track and whether we get that precipitation type transition I mentioned. Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia are in a similar situation, where timing looks like Saturday afternoon into Sunday. And we're dealing with uncertainty about precipitation types. The Confederation Bridge connecting PEI to New Brunswick could see restrictions or even closure if wind gusts reach the threshold levels that bridge operators deem unsafe. Those thresholds are typically around 80 to 90 kilometers per hour for certain vehicle types. And this storm definitely has the potential to generate those kinds of winds. Halifax and the mainland Nova Scotia regions are looking at a Saturday night into Sunday event, with accumulations that could range from 10 to 20 centimetres of snow. Though again, coastal areas might see mixing that reduces snow totals while potentially creating icing issues instead. Now let's talk about the wind situation in more detail, because this is a really important component of this storm system that goes beyond just the snowfall amounts. The low pressure system is forecast to deepen. That means the central pressure is going to drop, intensifying the system, as it moves across the region. When low pressure intensifies, the pressure gradient tightens, and that's what drives strong winds. We're looking at sustained winds of 40 to 60 kilometers per hour across a huge swath of eastern Canada on Saturday, with gusts that in some locations could reach 80 to 90 kilometers per hour. Those kinds of winds, combined with falling snow, create whiteout conditions, where visibility drops to essentially zero. You can't see the road in front of you, you can't see other vehicles, and even with your headlights on, you're essentially driving blind. This is how multi-vehicle pile-ups happen, folks. People don't adjust their speed for the conditions, they follow too closely, and suddenly they're in a situation where they can't stop in time. Environment Canada will almost certainly issue blowing snow advisories or potentially even winter storm warnings for many of these regions as we get closer to the event. And those warnings shouldn't be taken lightly. The power outage risk with this system needs to be addressed as well. While this is primarily a snow event rather than an ice storm, heavy, wet snow combined with strong winds can absolutely bring down tree limbs and power lines. The snow is falling during a period where temperatures will be hovering around -5 to -10 Celsius across much of the region, which is actually warm enough that the snow might have a slightly higher moisture content, making it heavier and stickier than the light, fluffy snow we get during really cold Arctic outbreaks. That heavier snow loads up on tree branches, especially evergreens that hold snow particularly well. And then you add wind gusts of 70 or 80 kilometers per hour, and you've got a recipe for broken branches taking down power lines. Hydro One in Ontario, Hydro-Quebec, and the various maritime utilities are all aware of this system and will have crews on standby. But folks, if we see widespread tree damage, restoration could take days in some areas, because crews can only work so fast, especially if they're dealing with ongoing blowing snow conditions that make travel difficult, even for emergency vehicles. Travel impacts are going to be the headline story with this system because of the timing. This is a Friday night into Saturday storm, which normally would be when people are heading out for weekend activities, visiting family, or in some cases, travelling for February school break plans that many school districts across eastern Canada have scheduled for the week following this storm. Highway 401 through southern Ontario, Canada's busiest highway, is going to be a nightmare on Saturday if this storm tracks as currently forecast. The Ontario Provincial Police have already begun messaging about the importance of avoiding non-essential travel during winter storms. And folks, Saturday is going to be a day when that advice should be taken seriously. If you don't need to be on the roads, don't be on the roads. Quebec's autoroute system, particularly the 20 and 40 corridors through Montreal and linking to Ontario, will face similar conditions. Transport Quebec typically deploys hundreds of snow removal vehicles during major systems, but even with aggressive ploughing operations, they can't keep up with snowfall rates of 3 to 5 centimetres per hour combined with blowing and drifting snow. Air travel disruptions are virtually guaranteed at this point. Toronto Pearson International Airport, Montreal Trudeau International, Ottawa International. These are major hubs that will see significant operational impacts on Saturday. We're likely looking at delays, cancellations, and the cascading effects that come with that as aircraft and crews get out of position. If you have flights scheduled for Saturday through any Eastern Canadian airport, you need to be checking with your airline frequently, building in extra time, and honestly, considering whether you can adjust your travel plans to avoid Saturday altogether. Sunday will likely see lingering delays as airports work through the backlog, even if weather conditions themselves improve Sunday morning in many areas. The marine impacts along the Atlantic coast and in the Gulf of St. Lawrence could be severe as well. Environment Canada's marine forecasts are calling for wave heights potentially reaching 5 to 7 metres in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, with winds creating hazardous conditions for any vessels that might be operating. Ferry services between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, between PEI and Nova Scotia, and other interprovincial maritime routes will almost certainly see cancellations or delays. If you're relying on ferry transportation this weekend, you need to have contingency plans in place. Let's talk about the extended forecast beyond this weekend system, because context matters here. After this storm exits eastern Canada, which looks like late Saturday into Sunday for most areas, we're not looking at any immediate return to quiet weather. The broader pattern across North America shows continued troughing in the east, meaning we've got cold air that's going to stick around, and we've got additional disturbances that will be rotating through that trough. Early next week, Monday through Wednesday, we could see another system developing, though at this range the specifics are still uncertain. What I can tell you is that the pattern we're in is not conducive to extended periods of quiet weather. So even after we get through this weekend's event, eastern Canada should remain vigilant for additional winter weather potential through at least the middle of February. From a climatological perspective, it's worth noting that February historically is one of the snowiest months across eastern Canada, so a major snowstorm during this timeframe isn't unusual. It's actually right in line with seasonal expectations. What makes forecasting these systems challenging is that relatively small shifts in storm track can mean the difference between 15 centimetres and 35 centimetres of snow for any given location. A shift of just 100 kilometres in where that low-pressure system tracks changes everything for who gets the heaviest snow, who sees the strongest winds, and who might deal with precipitation-type transitions. That's why I emphasise that forecast confidence is still evolving. We're going to get better clarity over the next 24 to 36 hours as the storm system actually develops and we can observe its behaviour rather than just modelling it. What should you be doing right now to prepare? First, if you're planning on travelling this weekend, especially Saturday, you need to seriously reconsider those plans. Can you leave Friday before the storm arrives? Can you postpone until Sunday or Monday? If you absolutely must travel, make sure your vehicle is prepared. Full tank of gas, emergency kit with blankets, food, water, flashlight, first aid supplies, phone charger. Tell someone your route and expected arrival time. Check road conditions before you leave using 511 services or provincial transportation websites. And be prepared to turn around if conditions deteriorate. Second, at home, make sure you're prepared for potential power outages. Charge your devices, have flashlights and batteries ready. If you have a generator, make sure it's fueled and tested. And never run generators indoors or in attached garages due to carbon monoxide risk. Have a plan for staying warm if power goes out. Layering clothing, sealing off rooms to concentrate heat, checking on elderly neighbours who might be vulnerable. Third, stock up on essentials before Friday. This is not panic buying. This is sensible preparation for a storm that could make travel difficult or impossible for 24 to 48 hours. You need food that doesn't require refrigeration in case power is out. You need water. You need any medications that anyone in your household requires. If you have medical appointments scheduled for Saturday, call ahead to see if they're planning to reschedule, or if the facility will even be open under storm conditions. For those in urban areas serviced by public transportation, monitor your local transit authority for service updates. Subway and underground metro systems typically continue operating, but bus services can be significantly disrupted by snow accumulation and road conditions. In Montreal, the metro will likely continue, but STM bus routes might see major delays or modifications. In Toronto, the TTC subway will run, but surface routes, including streetcars, will struggle with accumulating snow. Plan for longer travel times or consider staying home if possible. Environment Canada will continue updating their forecasts and warnings as we move closer to the event. And I cannot emphasize enough the importance of checking official sources regularly. The watches and warnings that Environment Canada issues are based on specific meteorological criteria. And when they tell you that conditions are going to be dangerous, you need to take that seriously. We're not talking about an inconvenient snow shower here. We're talking about a winter storm with the potential to create dangerous travel conditions, cause power outages, and basically shut down normal activities across one of the most populated regions of Canada for a significant portion of the weekend. I'll be monitoring this system closely, and we'll have updates for you as the forecast evolves. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you don't miss those updates. Hit that notification bell so you'll get alerts when I post new information. This is the kind of situation where forecast details are going to matter, and I'll be breaking down any changes in track, timing, or intensity as soon as we see them in the model data and official forecasts. Stay safe out there, everyone. Check on your neighbours, especially elderly folks who might need assistance, and please take this storm seriously. This is not one to mess around with. I'll talk to you all very soon with the next update.